Happy Friday, everybody. Here I am again in the Join George studio, and it's great to be back in 2025. This is our first one this year. So I guess I'm probably a little bit nervous, but I'm super excited about the topic that we're going to talk about today and the guests that we've got with us. So we'll come on to that in a moment. But first of all, I'd like to know who's out there today, who's joined the call. And so if you can find the chat function, and could you please type in your name and whereabouts you are. So are you in Warwick? Are you further afield? Are you even outside of the UK? If you could type your name and let us know where you are so that I can see who we've got on the call, that would be amazing. Where's my chat? Here we go. Alan in Warwick, Angela in Liverpool, good morning to you. Sam in Evesham, we've got Charlie Budd, hello Charlie, in Stratford-upon-Avon. Danny's in Leamington, Martina in Warwick, hi Martina. And it's it's Lou rather, from Birmingham today, and I hope I've not missed anyone out. And a couple more coming in. Fantastic, thank you all for joining. So, I've been trying to get hold of the two ladies that are joining us this morning. I started to talk to them both last year because I came across their company. I am paying attention. First of all, I thought the branding was fantastic. I was just really drawn to it. They've got a fantastic following on Instagram. And then, of course, I started to understand more about the topic that they were talking about, which, of course, is neurodiversity, which is broad and huge and probably affects us all in some way or another. And so I got hold of Jess and Mia, and I said, please, would you come on my webinar? To which they said yes, which is great news. We didn't make it happen last year, so here we are, kicking off 2025 with them today. And really what I was so fascinated about was that these ladies are very deliberately bringing this topic into the workplace. And, you know, I mean, we talk about it at Purple Monster because, you know, fortunately for us, we're a small organisation and we can have really honest conversations about ways of working, how people work, what they need, and so on and so forth. But I'm not sure lots of companies are doing that, and I really feel like there's a massive gap in possibly a lot of organisations where these conversations aren't happening, and there isn't enough understanding, enough acceptance, and so what I'm really excited about, like I say, is that Jess and Mia are trying to make a difference in that space. And so I would now like to introduce you to Jess and Mia from I Am Paying Attention. Hello to both of you this morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Hello.
What an introduction.
Oh, good. I didn't write any notes this morning because I'm very Friday, so I was a little bit waffly, but I hope I got it all out. Thanks both. How are you?
Nailed it. Good. Yeah, good. I can see we're matching in our leopard print, which I'm enjoying.
I've got my socks on as well. We've got matching tops.
Me too.
You've got socks on. Nice style,
I've got
Jess.
leopard print socks.
Same as me.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very
We didn't arrange that. We didn't arrange that. That's great. And how are you, Mia? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all good. I was just saying, I'm feeling the Friday energy. Sometimes I feel like when weeks are this intense, they should be 4 days long. But yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good to have you. Yeah, we're also a little bit Friday. We've had a really busy week coming back to virtual events. And so actually there is only me and Hugo in the studio today. Everyone else is sort of taking it a little bit slower. So yeah, we're all feeling Friday. So a little bit about you guys, and I because I know, like I said, I'm really interested in what you do. So over to you. Could you share with me and our callers today a little bit of a history of how I Am Paying Attention came about? What made you go, this is what we're going to do?
Absolutely, yeah. I think if it's okay, Mia, will introduce us on how we got here.
Yeah, please do.
We've actually known each other for a really long time, over 10 years, which I have to be honest is a little bit humbling. I can't believe I'm old enough to have a friendship this long. But we actually met at university in Plymouth. We lived in the same accommodation on the same floor. And just really quickly, we just clicked. And to be honest, without sounding too cheesy, it's just always been a super easy friendship from that point. So from two little 19-year-olds who actually didn't have a clue about the way that their brains work, we sort of have held each other's hand through uni problems, through relationship problems, and absolutely work problems. Yeah, we've actually lived quite a few hours away from each other for a long time now. So I'll go into it a little bit more in a second, but everything we've built has been done virtually over FaceTime or iMessage. Yeah, essentially, I think it was about 2020 when the pandemic sort of really started to happen. And like a lot of people, I think, who are really reflecting on a lot of behaviours and the way that our lives looked. And we just sort of happened to, navigate these journeys of understanding our brains at the same time and together. And we both realised eventually that we're both autistic and ADHD. But it was quite clear quite early on that the support that we had in each other was just so critical to being able to navigate this journey. And it kind of dawned on us, if we were struggling even with that incredible level of support, there were probably a lot of people who were not having, that support system and also trying to navigate the same things. So we basically turned our reflective, quite healing conversations that we were having virtually into little Instagram squares. And yeah, it just really took off. We ended up being featured in a few newspaper articles. And eventually we found ourselves in I think it was an 11-way book deal sort of auction. And eventually signed a book deal with HarperCollins. So our book, How Not to Fit In, came out nearly a year ago now. And we just really wanted to make a little bit more of a difference than just sort of Instagram work, basically. We have some really interesting experiences in the workplace, and we just sort of wanted to accumulate our knowledge and our experiences from the last 4 or 5 years and prior to that point, and make a bit more of a difference. So yeah, we've been delivering workplace training since then, creating resources, and that is my rant over. That is our introduction. Yeah, that's how we landed here.
That's absolutely fantastic, Jess. Thank you. So yeah, just such a lovely story about how friendship has brought you to this place. And then, of course, like you say, you started putting your content out. And I call it content, but of course it's more than that, of course. I mean, that's what, content can be many things, but of course it was drawn, like you say, from your own journey, your own trials, the things that you were struggling with, and then that wonderful relationship where you've been able to, like you say, process that, reflect on it, and then share those squares. To then moving into this book deal, of course, which I've seen on social media. I haven't read it. I'm going to, though. So I hope that's doing really well for you. And then, of course, you're offering these workplace training packages now, I think. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So, to be honest, over the time that we'd been creating pieces of work on Instagram, we quite early on took quite a heavy focus on accessibility. We realised that even ADHD and autistic content quite often was so hard to absorb and engage with, and so yeah, that interest in accessibility sort of peaked quite early on, and we've just carried it into actually trying to educate more people, and particularly workplaces.
I think both of us had questionable experiences in the workplace as well beforehand. Before starting I'm paying attention, I have a design studio background and Jess has a sales background, and we have both been in several jobs where obviously before realizing we were neurodivergent, unfortunately, but it just wasn't catered to. There was no understanding of it whatsoever. And obviously we've built a company around being neurodivergent. So we've learned a lot of things that we wanted to kind of pass on so that people that might be in our position have access. Sorry, I'm a bit coldy today. Access to the support that we weren't able to access, basically.
Fantastic. I'm so here for it. It's absolutely brilliant. And probably one of the reasons I'm here for it is because, and I shared this with you earlier, is my own experience of neurodivergency with my family. So, you know, I grew up with my dad having a whole host of traits that obviously we didn't understand. We didn't talk about them. You know, I remember Mum saying, "Well, he must be dyslexic because he can't spell," you know, and that was it. And it was thrown away. And then Mum obviously just did all the letter writing or whatever needed to be done. But actually, just listening to you there, Mia, when you talk about being in the workplace and there not being, it not being catered for people with neurodivergency. And the support you need. I'm now just reflecting personally here about how Dad struggled with so many things. And of course, Mum helped him. But also then Dad worked for himself. My dad actually ended up with his own business. And I'm just tying that in beautifully to your own experience here of where you've gone, actually, we're just going to do our own thing. Because, you know, we can't get what we need elsewhere. So
it is lovely,
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, Dad, then my brother, then my sister, you know, then my son, and we do have a diagnosis for him. All the other family members, there's no diagnosis. It's just symptoms and traits and conversations that we now have openly in the family, which again is a great step forward. And of course now my son is 13 at secondary school, finding school very difficult, as did I. Because again, I mean, it's difficult for lots of kids, isn't it? But these systems and these institutions are so rigid and not catered for people with any sort of neurodivergency. And so again, we're trying to navigate his way through school, as we're all trying to navigate our way through work and life, aren't we? So yeah, that was, you know, I just wanted to reflect on why I'm so passionate about this subject, because it is so very, very close to my own life and my family. And then really, I'm going to pause for some questions, actually. I'm just going to see if anyone's got any questions right now or anything they'd like to say. You know, do you see traits in yourself? You know, out there, you guys out there on the Zoom call, do you see traits in yourself? Is that perhaps why you've joined today? Or do you see it in work colleagues, and actually you're keen to understand more? Are you in that HR position or management position where you're trying to understand your employees more and your colleagues? So yeah, see if anyone's got anything to say on that. In the meantime, while I'm giving you some time to type, we've talked about sort of three things that we'd like people to be able to take away today. One of those things is giving people some idea of what they may or may not already be doing to create a neuro-inclusive work environment. You know, we've just talked about you guys setting up on your own because you couldn't find what you needed. my dad doing that some 50 years ago, you know. So what for those of us in a company like myself at Purple Monster, what can people be doing just to help that neuro-inclusive work environment?
Firstly, I'll start by saying I really had to have a think when I was pondering on the 3 things that I wanted to bring to this session, because there truly are so many things. I've settled on a couple that I feel quite strongly about that I don't think are always mentioned. And we'll go through them in a second, but I think I might actually start by talking about collaborative working. And I think it feels quite relevant, especially sort of hearing you talk about, you know, the sort of ways that your mum filled in gaps that maybe your dad was struggling to fill in. And I think over the last 4 or 5 years of working with Mia, although we have this, you know, really lovely foundation of respect and friendship, I think we've also really realised how often hyper independence in, I think especially Western society, is really pushed. You know, we're expected to be able to do everything by ourselves. It's like the amount of shame that I used to harbour, just because I felt like, oh, I can't get this task done, but I'm too embarrassed to tell my manager or my colleague that I'm struggling to write an email. Like, you know, although it doesn't matter how intelligent or not intelligent you are, you know, we all deserve respect, but I've always considered myself quite an intelligent person. And so for me to be struggling with writing emails, it was a bit like, oh, how can I be honest about the fact that this feels like a huge obstacle right now? And so in the time that me and Mia have worked together, we've just really worked on removing a lot of the shame around what we're actually struggling with. And the result has been, quite ironically, just a lot more work has managed to get done. And a huge increase in confidence and honestly in our skills, I would also say. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Mia, but
just the confidence in ourselves is a huge thing, because like you said, for so long I think there's such a shame when there's expectations on like things that you should be able to manage. And I think there are several times where we've delivered training to 300 people, but then it'll take us 3 days to try and write a reply to an email. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I think in the past, like we said, we would have shamed ourselves or not wanted to tell our manager. And I think there's not enough conversation, open conversation about these things, especially with neurodivergence, because we do think differently, and obviously everybody thinks differently, but it's really important that we have these open conversations, because it's taken us ages to get to a point now where we don't feel shame over admitting those things, over sort of struggling with things like Excel spreadsheets, because there's someone else that is good at it. And like you were saying around collaboration, I think in the past there was quite an onus on what we couldn't manage rather than what we can manage. And yeah, the funny thing is we've managed to find ways to support each other now, haven't we, in those areas? And I think before we had that confidence to be able to openly say, I'm struggling with this, can you help me? It can be quite isolating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably leading. Oh, sorry, George. Did you want to?
No.
Okay. Well, probably quite nicely leading into another one of the points that I had in mind, is the sort of executive functioning differences, or you know, the way that different brains work through tasks. I think especially as autistic people, you know, I find myself so deep into tasks. You know, when I look at objects, when I look at tasks, I think so deep into subtasks. I'm seeing all of the details, and sometimes that can be quite overwhelming. And it even flows far into like my personal life as well. If there's something I'm interested in, I just want to absorb myself in it. But when it comes to work, that can sometimes mean I might need a little bit of a prompt from Mia to begin a new task or to transition into a task. And I think, to be completely honest, for a long time, there were managers that probably looked at me and thought, oh, she's lazy, oh, she doesn't care. And I feel like I've sort of personally removed the lazy word from my vocabulary now, because actually there was always something going on behind the scenes. And I know now that I can produce some really beautiful work. And the things that we've achieved over the last 5 years do make me feel really proud. But I think that's just a perfect example of, just because I struggle to pull myself out of tasks and maybe start, in throwing myself into a new one, it doesn't mean that I'm any less worthy than people who maybe are able to be what some people would maybe call a little bit more self-motivated at times.
I think also when
Fantastic.
you think about the fact that our job roles nowadays, we tend to be doing a lot more work in terms of it being varied. It's not just a simple thing as this is your job role and you've got one job role. I think especially if you're running a small business, there are so many things that you're going to be focusing on. And I think the expectation that you should be able to be good and manage all of those expectations is ridiculous, I think. It's not just a case of this is your job role and this is what you do. We tend to have sort of at least 9 or 10 different responsibilities in our jobs nowadays. So I think that it's important that we have the conversation that our brains work differently and we're not going to be incredible at every single thing.
I've got some lovely comments, girls. So I'm just going to pause you both and just read some of these out so that you know that there's people out there that are listening to us. So first of all, Angela and Alana both saying something very similar, just about the fact that they've joined today because they want to know more. They just want to learn, which is fantastic. And again, both of them working. Angela works in a learning role, so she wants to understand so she can help learners. Alana is, I believe, she's in a position of a management role. So again, she wants to be able to understand so that she can support her employees, and that's why she's here today. What I heard from you both, and I've come on to some questions. Simple things straight away. Let's take away shame. Yeah, that was loud and clear from you both. Not an easy thing to do, actually. I make it sound simple there, but it's not that easy. But to drive towards, again, judgment and feeling, like you say, Jess, you felt that you were perceived as being lazy because you couldn't complete something.
100%.
And now, of course, I listen to you both, and you talk about the confidence and the productivity that you both have in you now, since that judgment and that shame has been taken away. So again, if you ever want a conversation starter, again, I'm reading some of the comments here about people wanting to know how to have good conversations, how to have better conversations, so that this learning can happen and this empathy and acceptance can take place. Straight away you can start talking about, right, the place of no judgment here. If you're a manager, again, I think about listening to both of you there. If you could have gone to your manager and said, look, I'm deep in this. This is really interesting me at the moment, but I haven't been able to get this email out. Okay, can we help? Can somebody help? Work collaboratively. That was at top of your list, wasn't it? So and I love working collaboratively. I hold my hand up all the time here and go, I can't do this on my own. My brain won't let me. Actually, I can do lots of things. I can do lots of things on my own, but some days I go, no, not this one. I can't do it. Now, I'm able to do that here because I've been here a long time. Yeah, so I've been able to learn to trust all my work colleagues. We're a small organisation, so so again, that trust and that building of relationships is made perhaps that little bit easier. We also have flexible working. We understand that some people's minds, again, work differently. So we've got, our studio manager. He'll get deep into things, okay, into the design of the sets and what have you, and he goes away for days, and he can't really do anything else. And we'll all say, no, don't ask Sam that today because he's doing that. You won't get an answer out of him. And we all have to, again, we all go, oh, okay, right, well, all right, then we'll give him till Friday, which again probably isn't the right answer there, because again, you have got to get work done. But it's that, like you say, it's that understanding, it's that collaboration. And like I say, because we're small, I feel like we can lean into that. What can bigger organisations do to find these moments, really? How can they find those collaboration moments and those good conversations? Is that just around good management?
Well, I mean, obviously there are lots of elements to this, but I think you touched on a couple of things there. That one I actually also had listed, and another one I feel really strongly about anyway. I think flexible work is absolutely one. I think sometimes we have this sort of attachment to processes because it's the way they've always been done, and it's like, no, this is what we need to carry on doing because this is what's set in stone. And I think this sort of movement, this neurodiversity movement, I really, really hope will sort of help us all acknowledge that actually we do work differently, and what works for one person, that rigid sort of 9 to 5, yeah, I can clock off, that's it, that's me done. Whilst that does work for some people, it absolutely doesn't work for others. Mia, I know, will quite often find a lot of comfort in actually just having a cozy little evening with a laptop. Like, the amount of beautiful things that I've sort of been presented with at 11 p.m. because Mia's excited about what she's been doing is, it's incredible. And I think we really need to reconsider this attachment to really rigid ways of working. And there was also something you touched on there that I feel like is very deeply embedded in a lot of the ways that we think about neurodiversity in the workplace, and that's actually empathy. And I've listened to Mia talk about this quite often as well, and she'll sort of quite rightly highlight that it often feels quite overlooked. It feels quite it feels almost too simple. But I think, Mia, maybe I can pass over to you, but I know you feel strongly about this.
I think when we hear the word empathy, a lot of us think that it's like, oh, it's just knowing how others are feeling, or like almost kind of a bit mushy. But I think one thing that we need to recognize is empathy is something you need to practice. It isn't just something that happens straight away, especially in a business. And I think there are several things that can happen to build a real empathetic team. I think one thing we're working with one of our clients on at the moment is actually building a communication plan. I think it's overlooked again at how different people communicate. So some might prefer a dedicated Slack channel for a project. Who are your points of contact? How do you prefer to communicate? Is it via email? Is it on a video call? Setting expectations for meetings, setting agendas. I think these are all things that we can do that foster empathy within a company, because you can begin to understand how people communicate. So you might get the best out of them at 3 p.m. on a video call, or you might get the best from a 9 a.m. email. But I think really understanding how people prefer to work and prefer to communicate, and not just making assumptions, is a really incredible start. And you don't need anything to do that. There's no huge investment, or it is literally just the case of just small
respecting other people, Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
Wild.
Do you know what? We could obviously talk about this all day. We've had half an hour. So we will stay on for a couple more minutes if you ladies are happy to, and hopefully our audiences as well. I'm going to go back to the comments so we can make sure we've got everyone's voices heard. So Charlie says, there are so many different kinds of neurodivergence. How do we start conversations about it? And how do we learn how to support people who may want different kinds of support? I think you've started to talk about that there, Mia, around the empathy, about understanding how do people like to communicate, what is their best way of working, you know, that sort of thing. So support people who want different kinds of support but may not know themselves quite what support might be most helpful. Well, that's a good one, isn't it? When people don't know what they need. What do you do with that?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, that was me for a long time. And I think that is why it's really important for workplaces to be actually educating themselves, to be getting training where they can, to be investing in resources, and to acknowledge that actually we all evolve as humans over time, you know, let alone sort of. So this needs to be like a long-term learning sort of approach rather than just, okay, this one person needs this, we know that, you know, what I needed 3 years ago is so different to what I needed now. You looked on the verge of saying something there, did I?
It's always funny when we're both on call because it's impossible not to talk over each other, isn't it? Yeah, I think, again, collaboration. It's not down to one person, employee or manager, to work it all out. It should be co-creation, working out what works, what doesn't work, is part of the process. It's not as simple as, okay, let's figure it out, slap on some accommodations and run away with it. Having those conversations about what's working, what's not working, and reviewing it. And I think that's the only way that it is going to work, is to just keep having those open conversations.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Great, thank you both. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Danny would like to share this. She says, people think that everyone has ADHD these days. It's like it's a trend. When it's more that people are more aware of it now, and it's something that is being explored and understood. Yeah. Struggle sometimes with seeing traits in myself and finding certain things really difficult, but it is not being validated because of not having a diagnosis, seen as just joining the trend. Okay, I think that's Danny just wanted to say how she feels there. Yeah.
I have a good analogy actually, which is, before the X-ray was invented, no one had broken bones. It was
You got it.
so old. We've become more aware.
I think it's a shame because I think ultimately what we really hope that we can arrive at some point in time, hopefully sooner rather than later, is regardless of labels, regardless of diagnoses, like everyone deserves to be able to understand themselves. Everyone deserves to be able to embrace that and honour it. And whether there's a medical diagnosis attached to it or not, we all deserve to be respected for the way that we work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Charlie's just put that he loves that co-creation, which we just talked about, Mia, and keeping those conversations going. And then Sam's got a comment, and then we'll probably just wrap up. So Sam says, seeing every task in my mind when we talk about general things that need to get done is a nightmare. Makes it really hard to either get going with it or explain to someone or myself how long it's going to take. And I work with Sam, so I see this happen. I'm starting to understand him more, because again, we're having really good conversations when we're having a cup of coffee or over a bit of lunch. We're having these conversations. We're also having them around the work. So again, you know, because we work a lot on projects here. So again, we can go, right, what does this project need? And I see him starting to perhaps see it all coming in, and actually we have conversations. Okay. It's a lot simpler than I thought it was. And I go, great, okay, we've managed to talk it through. We've we've started with something that feels massive, but we've managed to get it down. So I know, like I say, I'm working with Sam, and I see this happening. So it's really hard to get going with it. Then how would you even break that down and explain something about that task at a level that is simple? Okay, I think it's Sam just sharing how he finds.
Yeah, I mean, it's very
everything.
relatable, very relatable. But what I will say, I think, is, even the way that we've communicated about this session today, George, like your communication and the way that you are really clear about what will happen and what needs to happen by what day. I think just having people who are also aware and who also have that understanding, we can work so well together. Sam, I also get super sucked into the details sometimes, but Mia can sometimes be a lot better at seeing the bigger picture. And it's just about sort of like seeing who can sort of handle this part, who can handle this part. I see details that Mia doesn't sometimes, but the end result is beautiful,
Yeah.
I think one thing we tend to use actually is sort of visual mind maps quite often, because I know that Jess in particular is very detail orientated, and I think to put something into a sort of spreadsheet right away could actually feel very overwhelming. So we quite often use visual mind maps and just get all our thoughts out, and then once it's all out there in this big spidery mess, it's then easier to think, okay, well, this goes there, this goes there. And I think half of it is always processing to begin with, isn't it? And trying to find a way to process that doesn't feel overwhelming. I think it's a work in progress. Just finding a way that processing information works for you.
Yes, absolutely. So again, a lot of this is, and Jess, your experience, and I'm sure Mia, yours has been the same, is of course understanding yourself, and of course that's never stops. We always learn. Life is all about being a lifelong learner, whether you're learning about a topic or a skill, or of course I think about yourself. And so I think being in pursuit of that knowledge is always a great sort of way to be. Right. Oh, we've got two more messages, and then we are shout out to me. Sam says shout out to me. Of course, shout out to Sam. Right, Anetta's actually joined from Poland today, so I really do want to get her voice into the space. She says, I think it all starts with noticing, and that's a simple tool anyone can start to use. Just noticing. Yeah. Stop, notice, Agreed. And make a note. Fantastic. Anetta,
yes,
thank you.
Just
notice and don't assume you know why. Again, you talked about that. A lot of people assuming things are okay. Notice and then initiate conversation. Again, starting to say, put it out there, have a conversation. On a personal note, Anetta says, I wish my daughter could meet more people like you. She's diagnosed and struggles to find own strengths. We need more stories like yours. So thanks, Anetta. And actually, I know. And Anetta, let's make sure your daughter follows I Am Paying Attention on social media. But also, I've got a slide now with the girls' contact details on. So Jess and Mia, you can contact them on LinkedIn as well. So there's the website address and also the handle for Instagram. Thank you both, Mia, Jess. Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you both this morning, and I know I'm going to see you again. I know I'm going to talk to you again.
Absolutely.
Probably virtually, of course, because this works for us, doesn't it?
Of course. Absolutely, it does. And I will just say that I know we sort of we got deep into the conversation, but I did try to weave in the things that I had noted for all of our separate points. So hopefully no one feels like they've left with only a short segment of what we were going to talk about.
Well, do you know what? You could send those to me, and we could put them out and send them to everyone on an email.
Absolutely.
So we'll absolutely do that.
We will.
We can pick that up sometime next week. Yeah, great.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you both very, very much. And thanks to our audience for your comments today. Happy Friday, everyone, and see you soon. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.